Hello all, this is James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, and I'm back here in Fishing Planet, back at Mud River, and I'm ready to follow on and give you more information about catching freshwater drum. So, my last video wasn't bad advice, it was pretty good advice, but there wasn't a whole lot of why behind it, and I think I've figured out why certain casting locations work. Now bear with me, will you? If you look at the map here of the river, you're going to notice that there's these darker areas here, which basically signify the channels. Now I've noticed that a lot of drums get I get a lot of my drums here if I'm fishing on this side across the way. So I'll end up casting about here. The bait will drift, drift, drift till about here, and bang, drums will hit it. Now on this side, that first tree I was pointing out that I used to cast at, it was somewhere around, I don't know, like here. Right in here is that first tree. But right here is where the hotspot for drums starts on this side of the channel. So by casting here, you're already kind of putting yourself into the hotspot. So I recommend actually casting farther forward into this pocket and letting it drift into the hotspot here. Doesn't take that long. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So you see the yellow boat there? And then a little bit over to the left is this tree right there. This is the tree I'm using as a reference. And now what I want to do is I want to get about 75 feet out. Okay, that's 67. That's a bit short. I'm just going to bring it in as I'm running out of night crawlers to demonstrate my... Oh, and that's another thing. I've discovered that night crawlers actually are much better for this process than minnows. You still do catch a lot of bass, but a lot of the other fish tend to hit less. Alright, so now we're 87 out. We're going to reel in to about there, 76. And that kind of puts us into that pocket that I was talking about. Now we're just going to let it drift. And you're going to notice right now the bobber is there by the yellow boat. When it makes it to right about there in front of that tree, we're going to start seeing some hits from the freshwater drum. And now there is actual scientific reasoning behind this, so I guess Fishing Planet is doing its homework. And by scientific reasoning, I'm talking about these are bottom-feeding fish in a river that has constant current. And if you notice, these hot spots all are kind of like behind shallower areas of the riverbed, but still inside of the current. So this allows the drums to sit behind something in the current, which is blocking the current from affecting it. That way the fish is not having to fight the current constantly. but yet he's there to ambush. So we should start seeing a bite here from the drum here shortly, because we're lining up on our tree right now. Just trying to get a little slack at. Okay, we're going to go past the tree. So I think the box to get the drums is between those two trees there. That is where you're going to get most of your drum action, if you will, if you're casting from this side of the river. I'm actually going to take you over to the other side and show you how to cast from the other direction after we hopefully catch a drum here. Isn't this what happens when you start filming? Though it might be falling out of peak fishing time too. That might be what's going on as well. Let me pull this in. I'll give it another cast, and I'm going to check the fishing time, see if we haven't fallen out of our peak fishing time window. No, we're still in it. Got another good hour or so. Okay, so find our tree. Reel into about, between 70 and 75 area there. Fall into that deep channel, but yet behind the shallower section of the river. Basically, drift along this deeper area of the channel where they're waiting to ambush. This is a bass, I think. Yeah, it's moving like a bass. So that is one of the problems here, is the night crawlers will still pull up bass, and there are quite a bit of bass over yonder that way in that location as well. But fishing from the other side back towards where we are, we have the same bass issue. Those bastards. Haha. Pun intended. So there we are. back to 74. Now we're just going to let her float. I've noticed that a lot of the hits before they make it to that first big tree, when they're in the willow tree area there, tend to be bass. So what I think the bass are hanging out suspended in the shallower water. They're coming down into that section hunting. Alright, we're drifting into the zone here. We're coming up on the first tree. There we go, we got a hit, and it's a bass. We can actually cast at the boat to make the drift happen a little faster. I think 68 should be okay casting at the boat. Because as you're coming down the river, the bobber, it does tend to come a little closer to where we are. We'll go with 68. We'll see what happens. I would have preferred it to be about 70, but I think 68 will be okay. And because this drifting is upriver, where it hasn't reached the fulcrum point of where the rod is, it drifts pretty solidly with the current. Did I catch it? Doesn't feel like I have anything on. Yeah, I messed that one up. Alright, we'll go back for the boat. Bring it into 73. This is where I feel that we're right in the zone. Between 70 and 75, often that yonder direction there should drift it perfectly into the zone we need to be. And because we are casting up river, upstream, we need to be aware of our slack. Alright, we're entering that zone where the hits should start happening. And listen to that drag. I think we got a trophy on, guys. This will be the second trophy I've pulled out of that hole. No, not a trophy. Just a decent sized drum though. Okay, so again, why does this happen? We have this bend in the waterline here. So I believe bass are hanging out suspended here and jumping down to ambush. So if we cast too far up in here, we're going to get nothing but bass. So what we want to do is cast a little behind here and then let it drift to right about here, because this is the target area where those drums seem to be hanging out, at least on this side of things. So let's go over to the other side of the river, and we're going to be targeting here. We're going to be letting it drift to about here, and we're going to notice we're going to be pulling drums out in this location. And again, that's because these drums are sitting right here, staying out of the current. And I believe drums are sitting along in here, staying out of the current. And so they're ambushing, and the drums here are ambushing. That is my hypothesis on why this is happening. So let's go out to the map, hop across. Okay, here we are at Catfish Heaven, or so it's called. There's the sticks where you tend to get the bowfins. That's where we were standing, right over there in that little area. And so what we want to target here is there should be two trees across the way. There's this one and this one. This is not the tree you want to target. You want to target the tree on this side of things. And we want to get off to about 80 to 85. Because 80 to 85 is the channel that's over on this side. Alright, bring it back. We'll stop it at 82, so now we're in the channel. But because of our poor cat, wait, this might be one. Yep. Another trophy freshwater drum, guys. And my net is full. For the purpose of the video, I'm gonna risk catching a fish I can't put in a net. Just for you guys. Just to prove that what I'm talking about is indeed the case. There, we'll bring it back into the channel between 85 and 80. And now we let her drift down. Usually about when it gets somewhere in here is when most of the hits usually happen. That last hit was a little early, but we'll take it. I think we got a bass here. Yep. So, one thing I've noticed about fishing in this direction is you get more bass on the initial landing of the bait because you have a narrower window to land it into. Here, I'll show you. So when you're casting from this side, over here, you have this big area of deep water to target. And if you overshoot, you get in the shallows, or the shallows and the bass start hitting, or here in this gap, the bass patrol here. So anywhere in here, you're going to end up bass. When you cast across here, if you get in the shallows here, or the shallows on this side, you tend to end up having bass hit the bait. But if you can land it here in the channel and drift it down, you can avoid the bass. Let's see if I can show you what I mean. I think it's about there. Wrong tree, actually. That would have avoided the bass for sure. Alright, 79. So we're a little close. So we might be on the inside edge of the shallows. But I think it's better to be on the inside edge than the outside edge. So right about now is when that night crawler should be drifting past the point where the shallow portion is. And you can see it's starting to get ambushed. But it got ambushed by a bass, I think. No, it's whatchamacallit. Alright, and so there you have it. This was just a follow-on to my last video to give you a more scientific explanation of why the drum hit where they hit, and give you multiple angles to come at this thing. So, you know, if you want to fish on that side, you can fish on that side. If you want to fish on this side, you can fish on this side. And you can understand why, because of the currents, the deep water, that and the shallow water causing pockets where the fish are sitting to stay out of the current, as they would in real life. That's why these hot spots exist here, and why we happen to get more drums at that exact spot and more drums at that exact spot than other locations in the river. So hopefully this follow-up to my last video, oh, and night crawlers are better than minnows. That's the other thing I want to add on as well, for to correct in my last video. So I've fine-tuned where to cast in this video, and I've giving you better bait advice to go with night crawlers and not minnows. Anyway, I think that's all that needs to be explained about freshwater drum. I'll just show you my stringer because the proof is in the pudding, right? So there's a lot of largemouths while I was testing. And then once I got things nailed down, look at all those freshwater drum. And look at the trophy freshwater drum. That's where it's at, guys. So, I'm James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade. Hopefully you're enjoying this content. If so, leave a like and subscribe. And until next time, all, peace.